Here I stand in front of this church pouring my heart out about my spiritualism. What the f***? Who even am I? Behind me is where Nico's grandparents are buried. They're from the island. And we're overlooking several in all its glory up here on the mountain at the church. So I've been coming up here to do my Kriya and do some meditations. Just have some alone time in this beautiful, beautiful place. And I thought, what better place than to talk about my spiritual journey than here. So that's why I've come up here. I've taken notes because it's been quite the journey. And I wanted to not miss anything when I spoke about this because it's really important to me. And it's a big part of the reason why I have decided to even do these videos. So until pretty recently, the last couple of years, I by no means would have ever said I was religious. I never would have said I was spiritual either. And a lot has changed. My spiritual awakening tied in almost perfectly with my general awakening. And when I say my general awakening, I mean when I realized that I live in the mire and that everything around me is not what I thought it was. And all the news is fake and everyone is lying and everything I ever learned was incorrect. I think it was when I really started to dig down that rabbit hole and I really started to see the evils in this world. I think it took me to be so far down in the depths of the darkness to really see that there was a light and that for that much evil to exist in the world, there has to be good. There just has to be. And it just hit me, you know, that there's so much more to life than I ever thought. And not even much more to life, but more to existence, I guess. And I mean, I always believed in reincarnation, but I didn't know why. I didn't have any solid research to even back that up. I just figured there's so much of me and so much of my spirit and energy that there's no way that it could just disappear when my body decided to cark it. I just figured that doesn't make any sense. Like, all of this has to go somewhere, so it must go into another life. Once the penny dropped with the world around me, I guess the penny also dropped with regards to existentialism, and I really started to question what I'm doing here and why I'm here and what is beyond this and that sort of thing. And those aren't ever things I contemplated before. I didn't even think of it. And anytime anyone brought it up around me, I'd just be like, don't worry about it. You know, you'll figure it out when you're dead anyway, so what's the point in worrying about it now? Yeah, I feel a lot differently now, obviously. So I want to go through a little bit of a timeline as to my spiritual awakening process, because it's all happened really fast. Me being me, I don't half-ass anything. I dive into everything head first. So here I stand in front of this church pouring my heart out about my spiritualism. What the fuck? Who even am I? I want to start in May of 2023, which is when I started these videos. That was when we left Sydney for Thailand. And that was when we went pescatarian. So once I realized that everything in the world is toxic and trying to kill me, I started to become a lot more conscious of what I put into my body and also on my body. My diet changed dramatically. Not only did I stop eating meat, but I stopped buying things that come in cans or boxes or anything wrapped in plastic. I try and only shop at local markets. I'm a lot more conscious about where my food is sourced from and how many hands it's been through before it got to me. Also with things like skin products, cleaning supplies, and everything like that. Basically nothing gets into our house anymore without one of us, me or Nico, reading the label. It doesn't necessarily mean that it won't get in the house if it has some harmful things in it, but we're just a lot more conscious about the things that we do use. Also, I stopped taking almost all pharmaceuticals. So I was on the birth control pill for most of my life, since I was 15. I decided to go off that, not because I, don't want to control birth, but because at the end of the day, it's chemicals, and it was changing my hormones, and I'm just trying to go a bit more natural. I also slowed down. I don't want to say stopped, let's be honest, but I slowed down a lot on the fillers, the Botox, the lips, the even dyeing hair. I don't have lashes on right now, as I'm sure you can see, because at the end of the day, it's all just chemicals and it's all just superficial bullshit. And I guess that's easy for me to say now that I have a partner who loves me and I'm not single, and also, I'm not gonna lie, it's not been easy. Like, I worked in entertainment for how many years? I'm used to being camera ready all the time. So for me to be rolling around without having my hair and my nails done and that sort of thing is pretty foreign to me. No matter how self-confident I am, without those things, it just makes you feel a little bit more exposed. So that's definitely something that I'm still getting used to. Right before we went to Thailand, we started doing these cleanses. Now, the brand is called Zen Cleanse. I am by no means an affiliate or a promotional partner or anything like that. But I want to bring this up because this product is amazing. I haven't done a whole lot of cleanses, but the results that I got from them, you just can't deny them. The first cleanse that we did was right before we went to Thailand, and it was the gastrointestinal cleanse. It's just a one-day cleanse. You take a bunch of fruit enzymes and you fast, and basically it flushes out your intestinal tract. You poop out. I don't want to say poop out. You defecate. That sounds worse than poop. You expel mucoid plaque. Basically, it's all the food that's been stuck to the inside of your intestines your whole life. For people who eat a lot of meat, it's generally a lot more filled with sludge, according to the manufacturer and Google. Yeah, I had pretty good results with the cleanse. I kind of expected there to be more there, so I wasn't 100% sold after the first one. Nico and I both did that, and then we went to Thailand. And from there, we weren't eating meat. We did the second Zen cleanse, which was the liver cleanse, while we were in Koh Samui. That was a one-day one as well. That one was really difficult for me, probably because I've been an avid drinker since I was 18. I've also taken an insane amount of intoxicants, so it's no wonder that it was difficult for me. Basically, what it felt like was the worst hangover I have ever had in my entire life. So I was incredibly nauseous, pounding headache, just generally miserable. It was really, really difficult. Now, like I said, it was only a one-day cleanse, and I didn't start having these terrible symptoms until maybe halfway through the day. By morning, it had pretty much subsided, so it was bearable, but it wasn't pleasant by any means. When I did finally fall asleep, I had these incredibly vivid nightmares, and I kept waking up, and I was thrashing around in my sleep, and I was yelling out, and I woke up sweating and crying, and that's not unusual for me, but, well, I mean, it doesn't happen to me all the time, but it does happen sometimes because I'm a crazy dreamer. But this time was just really, it was awful. It was awful. But I'm glad that right after I did it even, I was glad that I did it, because for me to have such a bad reaction to it just shows me how filthy my liver was. And I again expelled a bunch of little like rock like pebbles, which is apparently stones of certain types. Ants crawling at me. I can't remember what kind of stones they are. Like I said, I'm not an affiliate to this product at all. That's why I barely know what I'm talking about. I'm only speaking from personal experience. But yeah, so that was the second Zen cleanse. And then when we got back from Thailand, I decided I was going to do a 3-day water fast, which I spoke a little bit about in my last video. I actually did all right on that 3-day fast. I had tried one in the past and I only made it to like 30 hours. And I just remember being so famished at the 29th hour that like I was ready to kill someone. But this time, I think because I had mentally prepared for it a bit more, it was easier for me. I had a lot more conviction going into this one. And also, the first time I did it, I don't really think my spiritual yearning, we'll say, had kicked in yet. So I'm sure that had a little bit something to do with it. And then we went to Greece and Turkey and Egypt and Abu Dhabi. So we went to a whole lot of churches and mosques and ancient ruins, and we spent a fair bit of time at all these places. For most of them, we didn't go with a guide because we wanted to go and experience it on our own. I was questioning a lot of things through that. I was questioning, like I said before, my existence, the meaning of life, what is out there that I can't see. Going to all those places, I want to say it helped, but it also made me have a lot more questions, because all these places, the history behind them is quite bastardized. You go there and you read a plaque or you read the information on it, and then you do a bit more digging and you find out that, you know, it's not quite what they want you to believe and that sort of thing. So that led me down several rabbit holes. It's been an insane learning process, this. But that's okay because I like to learn. One moment in particular, we were in Abu Dhabi and we went to the Grand Mosque there. I can't remember the name of it. My best friend Abs, bless you, he passed away several years ago now. And he was a devout Muslim. So when I went to this mosque, I took some time out and went into the women's prayer room, which I've never done before because, well, probably because I'd never really been to a mosque before. And also, in the past, I just wouldn't have felt comfortable. Not only because I didn't feel like I belonged there, but also because I wasn't religious or spiritual, I almost felt like it would be rude for me to go into a place like that. So I just never did. But, you know, with this whole new set of eyes that I have, I took some time out and went into the prayer room, and I had a moment, reflected on some things, and had a little chat with Abs, even though he wasn't there. He was there. Yeah, so that was a really beautiful moment for me. Gave me a little bit of closure with Abs as well. Yeah. Once we got back to Melbourne, we got back like early December. Nico was going through his phone and he saw an ad that Sadhguru was coming to Australia. Now, I didn't even know who Sadhguru was until I met Nico. I've been watching him on and off since we started dating, which is going on 4 years now. At that point, I had, a pretty good idea of who he was and what he was about. So I said, well, shit, let's go. We went online to book tickets, and they were still available, but there was a prerequisite that you had to do this program called Inner Engineering first. So we ended up doing this 7 steps to inner engineering, and I didn't feel like much of it was new knowledge to me. It was... Oh, my ear was just ringing. God, it's beautiful here. Anyway, it didn't feel like a whole lot of new stuff to me at the time. It had a lot about, how to live your life and take your responsibility for things and, living in the moment, and a lot of similar things like that, which are a lot of principles that I live by anyway. It didn't really strike me as anything too fancy, except that he teaches you a practice. It's called the Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya. We did this Shambhavi twice a day, every day for a week before inner engineering. And then we did it with Sadhguru at this event. I think there were like 10,000 people there. We flew up to Sydney for it. We stayed at the Novotel. Like, we made a whole weekend out of it. It was almost like going to a rock concert. Like, people were just falling all over themselves to be near him. Nico and I both were crying at one point. And I mean, Nico has been following for far longer than I have, and I still cried. He just has this presence about him. And it was really interesting to do this Shambhavi practice with 10,000 people as well, and to have him leading it actually in the room with us. Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. Nico and I, and anyone who takes the course, is encouraged to do this mandala, which is practicing the Kriya twice a day for 40 days. I didn't do this. Doing the Kriya, there are stipulations. You have to do it 4 hours after a meal. You have to wait an hour and a half after a coffee or a ciggy, 2.5 hours after a snack. So unless you're properly committed to it, it's not exactly easy to fit into your schedule. And I just wasn't mentally committed to it. My ear's ringing again. Early March, back to the Zen cleanse. We had already done number 1 and number 2 of the series, because there's 5 in the series. The rainbow cleanse combines the first one and the second one, and you do a 5-day fast in the middle. We did it during a heat wave in Melbourne. It was... I've never fasted that long in my life. Nico and I did it together, so I think that was a good thing. Otherwise, one of us would have ripped each other's heads off. It was a struggle, but I think it was probably one of the best things I ever did for a few reasons. One is that it completely cleaned me out. So with the first gastrointestinal cleanse, remember how I said a whole lot didn't come out of me and I was not as rapt about it as I wanted to be? Well, the second time around, I did the day 1, the cleanse as normal, and then second day, third day, 4th day passed, and because I hadn't eaten anything, I'm like, okay, surely I'm not going to pass anything because all I'm drinking is water now. I out a black demon snake. Like, it came out of me, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, how long have I been walking around with that inside of my body? I don't even want to give you any more details because it's filthy. Like, I'm almost ashamed of myself. Like, I'm not, but yeah. So when that happened, that's when I was really sold on the product, because I was like, what the actual fuck, right? But yeah, so not only did it completely clean me out, but it also made me look at food differently. Like, it made me realize, first of all, that I really don't need that much food to live. Secondly, it made me realize that I look at food almost like a hobby instead of a mechanism for survival. So like, you eat when you're bored, you overeat, you eat, in social situations. None of those are good reasons to eat. Like, you should only eat when you're hungry. And even then, you don't need much to get by. I know that now. And I also know that it just made me realize how much willpower I actually have and how strong I can be when I really set my mind to it. And that was really empowering. Really empowering. Yeah. And I also timed that 7-day cleanse in with Mahashivratri, which is a Hindu holiday. It has something to do with the way the stars and the planets are aligned. And you're meant to keep your spine upright for all throughout the whole night. because it aids in your spiritual journey, and it aids in your enlightenment and that sort of thing. So I timed that in with the 7-day cleanse. I think I did that on day 5. So I stayed up the whole night. I've never done that without drugs before, so that was interesting. I did fall asleep at like 7 o'clock for a couple hours, but it was almost light by then, so technically I stayed up the whole night. So with Sadhguru's inner engineering, that brought me to his foundation called the Isha Foundation. Once I started getting their emails and checking out their website and everything, I realized that they actually have a lot to offer. Now, one of the programs that they offer is Surya Kriya, which is Surya Namaskara, which is sun salutations. So I've done a little bit of yoga in the past, and I was starting to realize, the spiritual significance of yoga, because in the past I just kind of thought it was a fitness thing, which made no sense to me at all, because, well, the yoga that I had done in the past wasn't very fitnessy. I just found it really slow and boring, and I'm like, why do people do this? Because I wasn't spiritual, so it just didn't resonate with me. Once the spiritual penny dropped, then I kind of started looking at yoga and going, there's more to this than I thought there was, right? And Nico did it with me, actually, this Surya Kriya through the Isha Foundation. That was a 2-day program, I think. Going back to Nico and his yoga, he had never done yoga before until we were in Koh Samui, and I found this lady who offers private lessons and convinced him to come with me. So he actually did yoga for the first time with me in, yoga practices and asanas, the positions, in Koh Samui. Yeah, when he said he was going to do Surya Kriya with me, I was pretty excited. After that, in April, that's when I started training again. That's when I went back to F45 and Fitness First, and that was when I caught my injury that I spoke about in the last video. That laid me out for weeks. It wasn't fun for me because I'm just not good at doing nothing. So that was actually quite difficult. But through that, I decided that I was going to sign up for my 200-hour yoga teacher training course. I figured, if doing F45 and this sort of fitness is going to leave me injured, maybe I should be looking at something a little bit more low impact. I'm not getting any younger. And I mean, how many yogis do you see out there that don't have a fantastic body? So I'm like, maybe I'll give this a go. Also, just studying yoga full stop was something I was pretty interested in, just based on the fact that I was diving down this spiritual hole. So I did this 200-hour teacher training. I'm this close to being finished. It took me about 3 months. But through this yoga course, my God, I have learned so much, because you don't just learn about the different poses, you also learn about the history of yoga and the theory, and all about anatomy and about things like chakras and meditation, mudras. Like, there's so much more that goes into it that I didn't even know anything about until I took this course. It's been fun, actually, because I find it very interesting, and school is just something that's always come really naturally to me. Anyway, I'm just going to show you this sunset because it's beautiful. Oh, I hope you can see the colors. I gotta hurry, it's getting dark. Okay, where was I? And then when I started the course, the very first Zoom lesson that I did, listen to this, the very first Zoom lesson that I did was anatomy. And it just happened to be on the exact part of the body that I had injured at the gym. Like, if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is. So the first class I did, I was just like, okay, this was clearly meant to happen, right? So yeah, that blew my mind a little bit. In June, there was another Isha program that came up called Bhava Spandana. It's advertised as quite an intensive program. I was a little bit like, is this for me? Is it a bit out of my realm? I really was unsure as to whether or not I was going to do it. So I hummed and hawed over it for ages. I finally decided, yes, I want to do it. I signed up for it and I paid for it. And then a couple of things happened where I was this close to not going and just forfeiting my money, which I won't get into right now because that's for another video. like a few days before, I was like, fuck it, I'm going. So I went, and it's the first and only spiritual retreat I've ever been on. I went by myself. It was all women, none of which that I knew. I was completely out of my comfort zone. It was one of the most, if not the most extraordinary experience I've ever had. For so many reasons. It was so intense. Every 45 minutes, I would go from, oh my God, I love this place. I'm meant to be here. This is so amazing, to get me the fuck out of here. Every 45 minutes, it would go from one to the other. It was an absolute roller coaster. I learned so much about myself and about humanity and about other people. I walked out of that place feeling like my chemical makeup had changed. That experience was so profound that it's hard to even put into words. Add to the fact that we're not meant to talk about it anyway. I know without a doubt that that was a turning point for me. And it's interesting because a lot of people have said that about the program. So I'm really grateful that at the last minute, even though I was pretty convinced I wasn't going to go, that I changed my mind and said, you know what, no, I'm going. So in order to do that program, that Bhava Spandana, I had to commit to doing my Shambhavi Kriya. About a month before Bhava Spandana, I started doing my Kriya every single day. I have been doing it regularly. I barely missed a day. Also, when I decided to sign up for Bhava Spandana, I invested in the number 3 of the series in the Zen cleanse because I wanted to quit smoking, especially wanted to quit smoking weed going into this retreat because I wanted to go into it with a clear head. I just thought it would be adulterous if I went in, you know, under a cloud of intoxication, even if I quit a few days before or whatever. I felt like that wasn't going to be enough. So I bought the number 3 in the Zen cleanse, which is a lung cleanse. That cleanse went for 28 days. I had to completely quit smoking ciggies and weed for it, which wasn't easy. 1, because I'm heavily addicted, and 2, because my mom was here at the time and she is an absolute chronic. So like the house smelled like weed constantly. And also I had some dramas with mom during the last week. So for me not to be smoking through that was a bit of a feat. But again, that's for another video. Yeah, so I did the 28-day lung cleanse and I quit smoking for 28 days, and then I didn't smoke weed until like even after I finished the 28-day cleanse for like another week after that, and I've hardly smoked weed since. Now, I had planned on quitting ciggies forever, but we got to Greece and Nick was like, I'm gonna get a pack of rollies, which is no excuse for me. I'm a grown woman, I can say no, but yes, I have succumbed to temptation, so I've been smoking since we've been in Greece, but as soon as we leave, I'm stopping. So while I was going through the lung cleanse, a few of the protocols, things to do to aid in the process of the cleansing, were salt float tanks, which I did several of, which I now love, even though they hurt my back before. Also, I did some acupuncture and some cupping from a Chinese herbalist, which I also now love, because you know how much I love Western medicine at this point after COVID. Not. Also leading up to Bhava Spandana, I went to the Great Stupa in Bendigo, which is a Tibetan Buddhist temple where I got some mala beads. I didn't even know what mala beads were until I went up there. They are prayer beads, which I am now a proud owner of, which I blessed under the moonlight and put intentions into and now chant mantras with. Who the fuck am I? Loving that. I also went to ISKCON for the first time, which is the Hare Krishna temple in Melbourne. I used to see the Hare Krishnas in Newtown in Sydney, and you know, everyone go, oh, it's those crazy Hare Krishnas, and now here I am, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh my goodness. I actually loved going to the temple. It was really, really interesting. And again, back to synchronicities. I went to that temple a week after the other one, the Great Stupa, and I'm sitting there listening to this guy teaching, and his lecture ended with mala beads and chanting and how to use prayer beads. And I'm like, I literally just bought my first set of prayer beads. So, like, hello universe. It's just dropping little breadcrumbs for me everywhere to follow. Since then, we have also done another Isha program called Yogasanas, which is basically just a series of yoga asanas for general health and general spiritual health, I guess. And then the day before we came to Greece, we went to volunteer at an animal sanctuary for neglected and abused farm animals in Melbourne. We spent a whole day at the farm clearing out pens and feeding animals, raking leaves off the grounds and that sort of thing. And that was a really great day. It was really beautiful to spend time with animals all afternoon and to see how well they're treated at the sanctuary. And it really drove home our choices as to why we became pescatarian as well. Yeah, so I added that because I feel like that had a bit of a spiritual aspect to it as well. I think I've got most of the points as to what's kind of been unfolding for me over the last, I guess, year or so now. Yeah, this has been my journey, and never in a million years did I think I'd be standing in front of a church talking about my spirituality on an island in Greece. Never saw this coming, you know? And I'm so, so, so grateful. Not only for being alive, but for being healthy and being loved and being happy and having the opportunity to discover these things and explore and learn and grow. I'm just so eternally grateful to Krishna, perhaps. I just got tingles. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's all I wanted to say in this video, and it's starting to get dark. So I'll let it go here. One more time to look at this gorgeous view. Thank you for joining me on this journey and listening to me. And I will be back soon.